everyone. We do encourage you to go ahead and open up the chat. There are often questions and excitement happening in the chat throughout our meeting today. And we'd love it if you went ahead and dropped in the chat as well. Where are you coming in from and what are you currently writing? And we are going to dive in and get into our Writer's Bridge. So welcome. Today we are going to talk about platform reviews. You have been working on your author platform. Is your author platform working for you? We are going to review for some brave volunteers what readers are actually seeing, learning, and understanding about you and your work. And we're going to give everyone our tips about how to make sure your platform is getting the right readers and the right engagement. Ashley?
Yes. All right. Before we jump in, we wanted to share some feedback we got from an Express Lane member. So Writer's Bridge, for those of you who are new or just love hearing the origin story, we have been doing this for almost 2 years, every other Tuesday. It's always free, always recorded. You will have access to the replay for 2 weeks after this session, and it'll come out in an email with a detailed timeline tomorrow. Allison and I launched just in the new year the Express Lane newsletter, where we send out every Monday and Friday bite-sized pieces of platform building advice, strategic exercises that we've chosen. So Laurel is one of our Express Lane members, and she says, I really appreciate the short, doable lessons. Social media and marketing are a complete misery to me. But
that is misery, not mystery.
Yep, misery. But she came, she's in our company now. So she says, but you both have made it more accessible. So thank you. We're so glad that Express Lane is helping you. We've been talking about comp authors, newsletters, monetization was the lesson yesterday. And if you sign up for Express Lane, you get the archive of the Express Lane lessons we've done over the past couple months too. So check it out. We'll drop it in the chat, writersbridge.com/expresslane.
If you are here for the very first time, we call ourselves the Writer's Bridge, even though we are all about building platform, because a platform is a thing you stand up on and yell at people from, whereas a bridge is a two-way street where you communicate with your readers and your audience, and they communicate back with you. Our question of the week, Melissa asks, I am a published author of 2 books, and I also run the Lafayette Writers Studio. She's got some great classes, by the way, you should check them out. She has 2 Facebook accounts, 2 Twitters. Her posts on the studio pages are about the writing studio, upcoming classes, events, shout out about student successes. On Twitter and on her personal Facebook, she also posts about writing opportunities and sometimes her own publications. Should she have different names for all of these entities to align with the Lafayette Writers Studio, or is the way she's running things just fine? And we have a related question from Gabrielle, who asks, I use a free MailChimp to send monthly newsletters with resources promoting my writing workshops. I'm launching a Substack in June based on my workshop called Writing with the Seasons that will send weekly writing prompts connected to spiritual growth. Ooh, people will be able to subscribe at different levels, including a free option. Should I keep my MailChimp to send announcements, or do I need to move my monthly resource or announcement letter to Substack? Ashley, how do we handle multiple personality syndrome on social media?
Yeah. Okay. Building platform with just one account on each different available social media network is enough work. So mostly in most cases, we recommend having one, bringing things together, and that'll stretch you to ask yourself, how do all of these things tie together? The answer is because they're all things that you love. At the same time, if you are selling things other than your book that maybe you have a partner with, like Allison and I, right? We do the Writer's Bridge together. So we have a Writer's Bridge website that's separate from the Unkind Editor or idowords.net, and it's separate from ashleyrenard.com. So when there are different entities that you are hosting events through in a different name, then sometimes, yes, having 2 is the smarter solution.
And that's if you're specifically selling something other than your book. Personally, I'm getting ready to segment my newsletter into a more personal story time newsletter and an events focused newsletter because I'm teaching a lot more than I used to be. I was talking to Jane Friedman and she said she had always resisted having a marketing only email. Like she's got an email that's informative, she's got an email that's paid, and she's got an email that's just, here's what's coming up that you can buy. But she said people really wanted it. A lot of people do want just the list of what's coming up next. So in my next newsletter, and Gabrielle and Melissa, this strategy might also work for you, I'm going to give an opt-in to a marketing list in my next email letter. So do nothing and you stay on the personal story time list. Click this button to opt in to the events and marketing list, or scroll right down and unsubscribe if every time I show up in your inbox, you think of the lady next door who wants you to look at their moles. So try and find your audience's overlap as much as you can. But if you're selling more than one thing, go ahead and set up separate categories. Ashley, anything else you want to add to that before we dive in?
I just want to highlight what Allison said. She's going to invite people from her more storytelling newsletter to say, hey, do you want to hear about everything I'm selling, every retreat, every class I do? We have to, from time to time, cross over and say, hey, did you over here know that I also do that? And vice versa, because there will be more overlap than you think, or it's at least the very least a way to find and identify those people.
Exactly. Exactly. So we're going to talk all about platform. And so why don't we start by saying what the heck is platform? And platform is all the ways that you reach the people who need your book. It's the ways you reinforce connections with people you already know. It's the ways you expand your reach to the people you don't know yet. And it's not only social media. In fact, you don't have to use social media at all. Publishing articles and essays, speaking, teaching, being involved in community organizations, all of that is part of your platform too. We are going to talk about the platforms of some brave volunteers who have put themselves forward to be examples for all of us. And as we dive into this, we want to remind you that criticism is respect. We give critique because we trust in your ability to take the feedback and do even better. Ashley?
Allison and I were both coaches in another lifetime before we became writers. Go. Coaching figure skating and circus arts. So we fall in love with potential. We will open these platforms. We will see this is where it could be better. This is where you could stretch. This is where you can make a big splash. And that is what our feedback is based on.
And you can just count yourselves really lucky that you are never going to hear this piece of feedback from me. There's a thing called an aerial hoop that's like a big hula hoop, but round, and you kind of straddle the bar. And one of my favorite coaching tips is choose your least favorite labia and embrace the pain. You're not going to have to do that tonight. As you listen to us evaluating other people's platforms, please put your what if questions in the chat. What do you think they should do differently? What if you did this? What if you did that? And we'll share the chat this week in the replay email as well. Ashley, anything you want to add while I pull up a shared screen for our first person?
Pull up the screen share. Okay, I'm going to mute all because I know that that's not Allison's dog. And then Allison, just unmute yourself. My figure skating equal to Allison's labia feedback was a little different because I coached children mostly. And I would say, make sure your butt crack is facing her belly button. And they would say, BC to BB. Yeah, butt crack to belly
Love
button.
It. Absolutely love it. Yes. Fantastic. All right, folks, let us dive in here. So we're going to start with Kima Waterfield. And Kima Waterfield has what we like to call a literary platform. Everything about what Kima does is focused primarily on beautiful writing and the telling of absolutely amazing and powerful personal stories. So when we're looking at Kima's stuff, she's not necessarily going to be the world's widest person on Twitter. She's not necessarily going to be the most popular person on Instagram, but the stuff she posts is going to count. It's going to be these little precious, important moments. It's going to be, hey, I'm reading all of these people's books, or hey, my work has appeared in this other place. And she's doing a really nice job of putting that on her Instagram and on her Twitter. You know, she's got a nice pinned tweet here, which is an article that was in the New York Times. And the other thing Kima can do, though, is she's got really nice reviews. She's got some really fantastic interviews. She's got some really fantastic reviews that have appeared in, book blogs and on the Rumpus. And I would say, number one, you can use more quotes from your reviews and from your interviews. So like right here on your website, Kima, you've got a beautiful quote here from Maggie Smith, who's a name that a lot of us would recognize. I feel like Inside Passage is a coming of age story that will move through you and leave your heart rearranged. That should be right up here above the title. Like, go ahead and blow your own horn a little more. Ashley, what do you think?
Absolutely. We always say about 10% of your audience sees about 10% of your stuff. So, and if you are posting reels or if you're active in any way on social media, there are going to be new eyes on your profile every single day. So, Kima, you wrote a gorgeous book. Remind the world that you wrote a gorgeous book at least once a week. Tell your story at least once a week, whatever that is. We're all like stand-up comics, practicing the best way to pitch our book or explain what it is that we do in the world. So keep practicing it.
Schedule some tweets, screenshot those tweets to stories, because I know also, Kima, you are a mom of two fairly young kids, one of whom can't get vaccinated yet, and that really limits your available social time. So go ahead and use the scheduling function in Twitter. Copy paste some of these great quotes from reviews, some of this fantastic stuff where people are talking about you, maybe even links to these wonderful videos that you have of you reading. I have also been inside that theater. It is a beautiful place. And schedule those tweets, screenshot them to stories. And every time you post somebody else's opinion of your amazing work, tag them, tag their book, review their book as you're able to do so, and use this content more than once. I also feel like you could, if you're running out of visuals, because your book is so much about family, I think you could use old family photos as some of your visuals, but use them paired with book reviews. Kima, do you have any questions?
As Kima jumps on, I just want to say Stephanie's asked in the chat if there are any ideal times to post to Twitter. So Allison's more of a Twitterer than I am. I am finding on every platform that it is the hook and the quality of the content that is affecting its reach much more than what time of day it's posted, especially since pandemic, with everyone's work schedules or so many people's work schedules shifting. It seems that people are online more than ever.
I get really good results on stuff that posts at about 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. And I get really good results on stuff that posts late night Sunday when everybody's like, oh gosh, I'm trying to like stop myself from having to go to bed and wake up to Monday. If you do not yet know how to schedule tweets on Twitter, you cannot do it on mobile. You can only do it on laptop. It's this little calendar button right here. You're going to write your tweet and then you're going to hit the schedule button and it will let you pick when you want to schedule stuff. I also have a stack of scheduled tweets. And one of the things I do is every time I have like a cool book review that I really like, or a cool blog post that I think is really neat, I go ahead and I write 4 or 5 tweets out of it instead of just the one I'm thinking of at the moment. And I've got tweets scheduled all the way through October, November, so that when it's time for tweeting to happen, it doesn't have to automatically be me every single day. I have a whole series for NaNoWriMo that's going to post automatically all through November. It's been a big hit the last 2 years, and I will, modify a little bit as we go, but it's really nice just to kind of lay down that list of content that is like the bed of content on which I can bounce.
Now, that is brilliant advice about batching tweets. I would ask you guys to consider whatever place you love posting, but posts take you so long. Like, does it take you 45 minutes or an hour to make a reel or to write an Instagram caption? Spend 2 hours, block off 2 hours in your schedule, and I bet you get more than 2 posts done. I bet you get 4 or 6. So just taking that time, it's sort of like the throat clearing at the beginning of an essay or when we first sit down to write. getting into the groove of it is usually what takes the most time. And then you have some momentum. So I actually block off 3 hours, but I don't use the whole time to then batch for the next 2 weeks.
So let us dive into the amazing and talented Louise Julig, who has some really cool stuff going on where she is growing some of her platform with partnerships. So Louise wrote us and she said, I heard from the partnerships marketing manager at bookshop.org. As an affiliate, I'm on their email list. They sent out a call in February for lists to be featured on the homepage on bookshop.org. I responded with one of the lists I'd already made and they liked it. And this is the email that she got from the marketing manager at bookshop.org. So an organization that has a lot more money than Louise, and that's not a comment on your personal financial circumstances, Louise. They got more money than all of us. The marketing manager said, I hope you have a restful weekend. Thanks so much for submitting your fabulous books for writers of memoir and creative nonfiction list. It's fantastic. I would be delighted to feature your list on our main homepage from March 7th to March 14th. I also collaborate with our social media editor to feature an affiliate across our social media platforms, Twitter, Story, Facebook, and I think your book list will make a great impact with people engaged on social media. Would you be interested in being our social media affiliate shout out where we highlight another book list on March 25th? There we go. So Louise has spent the last 2 weeks getting ready for this platform review. And so she feels like her stuff is about as good as she can get right now. She has a wonderful freebie in place. When you go to Louise's website, you get invited to sign up and receive 5 5-minute practices that will help you be more brave. I signed up for it. I want to know how to be more brave. I think that's a fantastic freebie. And so she's done a really nice job of partnering with another organization by making these curated lists that anyone can make on bookshop.org. Just go into bookshop.org, sign up for an account, and it will walk you through, hey, there's my book. It will walk you through the process. And you might get picked. They send out a weekly email that says, hey, send me your list. It might be one we want to feature. Ashley, what do you want to add? And I'm going to flip through some more of Louise's stuff as well.
I love everything about this story. It's making book lists is not something that we just do because we heard that bookshop.org is looking for someone to feature as an affiliate, which means Louise is going to get a small, but she will get a kickback from every single book that's purchased through that bookshop list. So it is her being a good literary citizen. It's her being generous. It's her taking things. It's like Mary Oliver, right? Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. So when you read books that you love, one of your responsibilities, if you choose to accept it, is to then share about it. So Louise just did things that come very naturally to her. And I want to invite everybody to consider, what is that thing for you? What is that thing for you? Would it be a roundup of podcasts? Would it be, great Twitter accounts to follow to stay apprised of what's going on in Ukraine, or who to donate to? Like whatever you naturally have a passion for, consider how you could bring those things together to share with other writers.
I want to give Louise just a couple of things that I think she can do even better with what she's doing. So Louise is doing a lovely thing where for the month of February, she is highlighting Black women writers whose work she would like to be engaged with, whose work she appreciates, whose work she's discovering. I think you can take these packets of 9 and you can make them packets of 4 instead. They're a little bit hard to see because some of the photos are quite small. And I think if you do them in quartets instead of nonettes, it will let you both say a little bit more about each writer in the caption, and it will also give you more content. Because if you've got 4 packs of 9, that's also 9 packs of 4, and then you've got 9 posts. And so instead of just, here's the titles and the thing, which is great, she's got like a really brief, this is why you might want to follow this person, but it would probably only take 10, 15 more minutes to find a quick quote from each one of them's book, or something cool they said on Instagram, or something wild they said on Twitter, and go ahead and quote them, as well as saying how lovely they are and that people should follow them. Ashley, you want to add anything about Instagram?
I just think that advice that you could do less and just go a little deeper rather than so broad is great advice. Short videos are really having a moment on Instagram right now, like less than 10 seconds, really getting to the point. The world is overwhelmed beyond overwhelmed right now. But we're still looking for something like some encouragement or some information or entertainment. So giving it to them, people quickly, is more important than ever.
This could be 2 posts of 3 books, or it could be a carousel where you post all the books in the front and then there's 1 slide per book as well. The other thing I want to say is Louise has a really nice website here. It's really well designed. It's clean. It's easy to navigate. I'm just going to say there's a couple of things that you could do even better here. So number one, I think you can shorten your tagline here. You've got creative nonfiction writers, personal essays, flash CNF, live storytelling. Well, the CNF and the personal essays kind of cover creative nonfiction writer. So maybe go for that rhythm of 3 things. Take out creative nonfiction writer and do live storytelling, personal essays, flash CNF. And then watch for what's immediately repeated in your bio here that's already in your tagline. The bio is great. You've got all the relatively great information. It's got your voice in here. I would say there's not necessarily a section of your bio that I'm like, oh crap, Louise is coming to my event. I need to copy paste her bio from her website because I forgot to ask her for it. Always, writers, somewhere on your website, you need a bio that a booker or a promoter can copy paste. The other thing is, this is a beautiful, moody, gorgeous photo of Louise. I'd also like to see something that is a clear, reasonably well-lit headshot, again, so that we can use it if we need to promote your work. Ashley, you want to add anything about that?
I think that's wonderful. I think that's wonderful. Louise, good for you for doing the work that you did and for seeing that opportunity.
And you have these wonderful videos of you storytelling. Louise is a freaking fabulous storyteller. I've heard her live a couple of times. These videos could also be converted to Reels if you felt like getting engaged in Reels, and that would be some relatively quick, relatively easy content that you could generate.
Yeah,
So,
and just to note, when a video is at a different format than the portrait type format on Instagram Reels, don't worry too much about it. TikTok gave at least one gift to our society, which made us worry less about social media looking fantastic and produced. You could just do a screen record of that video. Don't worry if it doesn't fill up the whole screen. We are all adaptable and like looking for the information we want. If you are captivating the storytelling and you pick the clip that'll pull people in the most, you can tell them that they can watch the rest of it if they go to your link in bio.
One last thing for Louise, when your bookshop.org list is up, that's an opportunity to monetize as well as to promote other writers. And so I would say go ahead and plan and probably schedule a daily Instagram post for every day of the list, where each post profiles one of the authors or gives a brief review on one of their books or says why it's on your list, what you love about it, a great quote from the book. Tag the authors, tag their publishers, and if you can find it, tag their agents as well.
One more thing during the time that you're being promoted, Louise, if you can be on your Instagram stories face to camera 1 time a day, just so people can see, oh, that's Louise, that's what she's doing right now. You will maximize the number of followers who may come to you and then follow once they're exposed to you through bookshop.org.
Marisa has a really specific question in the chat, which is that a mental health app that appears to be legit has said they want to offer her a partnership. What would her conditions be? Not sure if I should reply because it might be a waste of time. Ashley, while I set up Carlin's pages, will you tell us, how do you know a brand that wants to partner is legit, and how much money do you ask for?
Okay, so the fact that the mental health app asked Marisa what her conditions would be to making content shows me that they probably have their shit together. What a reputable brand will always do will be, they will give you access to their product or send you the product and then say, if you like it, what would you charge us for a video? My starting rate was $300 for a 30-second video, and no one ever said no. So Marisa, you could say $300 for a 30-second reel and see what they say. Maybe they'll come back and say, okay, great. Maybe they'll say, okay, our budget for this is only $110. What if we gave you a higher percentage off affiliate links? This is what you want. You want money to make the content, you want a discount code for your followers, and you want an affiliate link. I like a discount for my followers of 10 to 15%, and I want 10 to 12% affiliate for me. So those are the things that you would say to them. Just tell them $300, Marisa, and then see what they say.
Yeah. Can't hurt. I mean, the worst they can say is no, thanks, that's out of our budget. And if you really want to work with them, you can come back and say, well, since it's our first time working together, I'd love to work with you. What is your budget? And then they can give you an offer.
And if they can only offer one thing, take the commission.
Let us dive into Carlin Montes de Oca. And Carlin, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Carlin has an example of a really 360-degree platform. Either the last episode or the episode before, we talked about how social media is a shortcut in a lot of ways, because for many people, their platform is the business and practice, or the hobby practice, or the personal practice that they have built their lives around. And writing a book is the next outgrowth of that platform, rather than going, I'm going to write a book and build platform around the book. Carlin is an animal human health expert. She's written a book called Dog as My Doctor, Cat as My Nurse. She's writing a new memoir called Junkyard Dog, which is a story about discovering she was adopted at the age of 57, and discovering she was adopted at the age of 57, just to clarify there, and the year-long journey to put her identity back together again. So she's wondering, does she need to change her focus as she moves from primarily pet-based stuff to more memoir stuff? And she's got a whole bunch of videos coming up. She's going to launch a series of 60-second videos by telling the story of her adoption to her dog, who is also adopted. Then she's going to go onto YouTube and do 52 2-minute shorts once a week on advice of surviving the first year after you find out you're adopted. And she's building an influencer list and reaching out to them daily. And I'm hoping that means you're reaching out to some of them each day, every so often, and not all of them every day. So my first question is, how long is this taking you? Is any of it automated? Do you have an assistant to do any of it? This is a big platform. Most of us are not going to get this big, and that's okay. But it's a lot of moving parts. Ashley, you also have a big platform. How do you handle all the moving parts?
I'm finally understanding that batching is necessary as I scale things. So I'm wondering from Carlin if she has these batched already. It seems like she has a really strong plan and strategy. So I'm thinking maybe she's been making these, which is amazing. What I would say is, if you have made them and batched them, stick to your schedule, because sometimes it's tempting to then put out a bunch of things at once, and then you get yourself behind before that you can get that new batch in. So I'm wondering about the influencer list, if it's around pet rescues, or if it's around freedom, like adoptees' rights, because we're talking adoption, but in the two different species, it is quite different. So wondering where she is, and that is Carlin on our call. Okay, influencer list is both. Got it, Carlin. I do love that you're telling your adoption story to your adopted dog. The way that you can pull in audience members from people who care about both of these things is kind of brilliant.
I really love that too. And for those of you who are switching genres, and we're going to look at Maureen Cavanaugh Berry's genre switch as well, that's a really great way for Carlin to bridge. My audience is here because dogs. How do I get them over to being my audience because memoir? And that's a really beautiful way, by starting out with the content merged. Mubina, I know you're balancing, you're a tarot reader, you're writing a thriller, you are a business and personal counselor, you do coaching, you do editing. start thinking about, focus on one or two of these and see what could you merge together. Is there like a whole tarot card series about today's tarot card is a writing prompt and this is what you're going to start from? Or is there a series about today's business coaching moment is you're going to journal about this? How can you merge and blend things to transition from one genre to the next?
I love that because I actually use tarot for my writing and my business decisions. So Mubina, using that, if I don't ever get writer's block, because if I have it, I know I'm not supposed to be sitting at my desk. So I'll meditate, or I'll do a card pull, or I'll take the dog for a walk. And that's been part of my process since I choreographed figure skating as well.
Carlin, you are probably ready to start using a social media scheduling app, something like Later or Social Bee. Ideally, you want something that is going to recycle your evergreen posts and automatically, like you upload a whole bunch of content, you set a schedule, and when it reaches the end of that 50 tweets or whatever, it starts over again and pulls more tweets. You do have to be conscious of what's going on in the world. Like, for example, because of the situation in Ukraine, it might not be appropriate to have your, wacky dance contest on social media right now, but it might be worth it to start scheduling some stuff. The other thing I would say, just some quick and dirty stuff for you, use more niche hashtags on Instagram and use fewer hashtags on Twitter. Something here with Grace, dogs, Year of the Tiger, rescue dog, dogs of Twitters, cats, wild animals. It looks like a parody of a social media account. And I say that with great love in my heart. Hashtags on Twitter are fading. You generally want to use only one hashtag per post. And usually you use a hashtag either to tie into a specific community or to make a joke or to stress or explain something in your tweet that might not be immediately clear. But definitely fewer hashtags on Twitter. And over on Instagram, these are not helpful hashtags for you. So for example, if I hit dogs of Instagram, this hashtag is going to pop up as it loads 269 million posts. That means that anybody following that hashtag, your post is going to be gone in the blink of an eye. It is never going to get in front of most of the people who follow that hashtag. This is for everybody. You want hashtags that are between about 5,000 and 100,000 impressions on them. When you click through on the hashtag, you can find out what the number of impressions are. Mix it up. You might want like 3 in the like 70, 80,000 range, 3 in the 20, 30,000 range, and like maybe you have 3 really niche that only have 1,500 photos on them, because then that will make yours stand out even more. The last thing I want to say for Carlin is focus a little bit more on making your blogs, your Instagram posts, and your tweets more attractive to click through on. So these are really interesting graphics, but the text is too small to read. So it's not necessarily doing me any good when I look at the thumbnail. I also think you can focus more on having this beginning sentence be a powerful and intriguing sentence that makes people want to go, oh, I want to know what the rest of this is. So this is pretty strong. What is the least understood and most overlooked tool that benefits human health and well-being? However, then you got to put nature on another paragraph, because otherwise I have the answer and I don't need to click through. Here, many people I've spoken with lately seem more than eager to kick 2021 out the door. It's not intriguing. It doesn't make me want to click through and read it. It sounds more like, oh, this is going to be sadness about the new year. So think of something in those very first sentences. And this goes for everything, people. This goes for your query. This goes for when you write your memoir. This goes for the opening pages of your book. You want to have something that makes people go, I have to know what this is about. I have to read on.
It's like we don't want to bury the lead, right? We can't bury the hook. We can't. We have to go right to people, and it's having someone know who we are or even love us so much isn't even enough to make someone read it. Allison loves me. I love her. I know 100% she will not read anything of mine that has a boring first sentence, and I will not read anything of hers that has a boring first sentence. You really do have to bring people right in. And so you have to be strategic. It's going to feel a little like clicky, or I always think, would it be like a story on the cover of a Cosmo magazine. Like we have to just understand, we have to work with what we know about human nature right now. People are impulse clickers and impulse readers. So work with that, work with what you know, and then bring them in so that you can give them something of substance after they click.
Maureen Cavanaugh Berry is changing her focus. She started as a cookbook author slash podcaster slash speaker. She is moving now to being a watercolor mixed media artist and a memoirist in progress. She's not currently doing a lot of real life stuff, but she's ready for that to change now that we're coming to a time when it's safer to socialize. I absolutely love how you are blending watercolor images with your topical captions. So the memoir has something to do with personal health. You're off to yoga, you're going for a 4-month scan and an MRI. This is paired with a beautiful watercolor of a koi fish in a pond. And that's something you can really, really keep pursuing. Same with Instagram. Look at how can the picture be something that is from either the old life and the caption is from the new genre, or the picture is from the new genre and the caption ties it into the old genre as well.
Love that so much to work with. Allison, did you have the Blue Heron watercolor? There we go. Posting the watercolor with the reference photo, because people really love a before and after. And then it pulls us into the process. It's like the most, why people love before and afters, because they have to connect all the dots in between, right? And then they'll click back and forth, what's similar, what's different. And it just pulls them on, into a little fantasy world just for a moment.
And then if you do some before and after stuff, you can also look at the before and after of you. So before you were a cookbook author, now you are an artist. How did you transition from those two things? The other thing I would say too, because you are painting and your work is beautiful, see if you can figure out how to rig your camera up over top of your work. It is possible to do this with a microphone boom arm, which is this thing right here. It is also possible to rig it up with a number of hacks. People freaking love it if you videotape over top of you making something and then you run it on fast forward. It'll take a little bit of time to learn how to do the video editing, but I think it's something that could be really, really beautiful and really engaging to your readers. And I know you haven't done the Blue Heron painting yet, but we would love to see the process. Do you make preliminary sketches? Do you take a long walk and watch birds flying in the neighborhood? What's the process that you do that brings this picture to life and lets us see how it goes? And do you then go home and make yourself a beautiful salad that you eat while thinking about your upcoming watercolor?
Mm-hmm. I would love to know everything about the process, and just using simple time lapse on an iPhone can, every time you paint, Maureen, I would just set up time lapse, set it up, try to get like the right lighting on your table, and then you could just put it in your story. You could put it as a reel. What I'm really loving that I'm seeing from artists, it's coming up on my For You page or my feed, is watching them paint, and they have some just really low music, and then it's a voiceover where they're actually telling us something that has nothing to do with the painting, but everything to do with their life. So talking about your experience with cancer, your transition, talking about the walk you had today, while we see you painting, would be magical.
Tanya says in the, Tanya, sorry, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. She says in the chat, I have an IPEVO camera that is easy to use with Zoom, great for classes and this kind of process thing. It can create videos too. I use my good old iPhone. Ashley uses her iPhone. I did go ahead and buy a professional microphone boom because, man, you should have seen me like balancing broomsticks on top of buckets before this. So it can be really helpful to actually get a bent boom that will help out. And Tanya says that camera that she mentioned has that. I really love Maureen's look here with her pop-up. Get the 4 Pillars to Creative Badassery ebook when you sign up for my newsletter. It's really clear. It's a call to action. Do this thing, you get this other thing. And here's what you're signing up for. Every third Sunday, I share handpicked, bite-sized inspiration on books, art, and food. You can subscribe and unsubscribe anytime, but I hope you don't, which is really cool. And I love this little ball that might be a squid or might just be a sort of celebratory ball or a jellyfish or something, but it makes me want to know more. It makes me curious about what she's doing. Ashley, anything you want to add here?
So much beauty. I love your suggestions, Allison, for bringing it all together.
Look at that sea turtle.
So pretty.
Oh man. And I think Maureen already has kind of a head start on this change in that she's clearly really freaking good at this, which I think is really, really nifty. Let us dive into Sue. And Sue is doing something that I know a lot of you are doing, which is she is writing a novel, and she is transitioning from writing nonfiction to writing this novel. And how the heck do you do writing about fiction in your personal social media? So, Ashley, what's happening here? What are we doing?
Okay, so we really love the images that you have here, Sue. Do you have Sue's website up too?
Yes, we pop that sucker up.
So Sue's been posting micro essays on Mondays and Thursdays, right? And really thinking about her content buckets. 4 other days, she shares, talking about her content buckets on the 4 other days, she shares the micro essays to her Facebook author pages and to her Instagram stories. And she also distills them down to a tweet. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. And we love the content buckets in action here, Sue.
On Tuesdays, she does a thing where she takes a walk and does images and observations from around the neighborhood, beauty of nature, weird stuff on the street, general mood, accompanied by songs with walking in them, like I Walk the Line or Walking After Midnight, which is something that the protagonist from her debut novel does. On Wednesdays, collecting and object-related stuff, also something that the protagonist of her novel does. Friday, a few lines from what she's reading this week, header, quote, image of the book, tagged the author, tagged the publisher. Saturdays, does something about a song, the header, the image of the album, a line of memory or association, and the actual song playing using, social media songs where you're not worried about copyright because Instagram has licensed the music for you and you can just pop it in there. And so this is something that I think she's doing a really nice job of both giving herself assignments. Like, okay, I don't have to think about what to write on Tuesday because Tuesdays I take a walk and I write about something I see on my walk. And that makes generating content so much easier. And she's also rotating through her content so that people get more interested in what she has to say and get to experience all the different facets of her.
Yeah. And I love that there's this consistency when people find Sue for the first time and then come to any of her profiles on any social media platform, they're going to know what Sue's about. Question Sue, and you can unmute if you're willing. Does your audience know that some of these things you're doing are related to DJ, the protagonist in your novel, or is that something that's still behind the scenes or a secret?
Well, I just started it, so I hadn't really, I just started it like last week.
Okay, great. So they don't know yet, right?
No, not yet. Yeah.
Okay.
You could go ahead. You first.
Yeah, I would love to give people that info, that behind the scenes that you're thinking about DJ. This is what your protagonist is like. Using these practices as a way to get to know your character better. And even people who aren't writers, curious, smart people love to know what's going on with creatives and creative process, right? Like I love to see how a painting is done, even though I will never paint. Allison.
I love that Sue has a beautiful copy pastable short bio right here with a headshot that I could grab and use if I needed to promote her work. All of your website pages are pretty short, Sue. If you ever do change website templates, and I'm not saying you have to right this minute, but it might be worth making it one long web page that's just section by section, people scroll down. The other thing I want to mention is you've got a really short link tree. This is a color scheme I see on a lot of people's link trees. It's not that easy to read because it's not very high contrast. I would say it's probably worth picking a darker background on here just to give it a little bit more contrast. But I'd also say go ahead and put more of your published work into the link tree, because right now the links to published work takes us over to Sue's website, except that I get this whole set of stuff that is not actually clickable at first. And I might not scroll down. I might go, oh, she's won a bunch of prizes, and not actually scroll down. So I would say pick your favorite 4 or 5 and go ahead and put those directly into your link tree so that people can get to see them there.
And when you pick your top 4 or 5 publications or essays, also think those are probably topics that you write about often. So think about in your caption how you can refer people back to the essay. I wrote about this in more detail at the piece link in bio. And then from what you said in your caption, when they go to your link tree, within half a second, they're going to know which one to click, and it's going to take them right to that page so they can start reading it. Whenever we want someone to go somewhere, we want to get them to the finish line in 30 seconds and less than 2 clicks. Okay, because any longer than that, and people will, it'll be like, oh, shiny thing. We're on to something else.
This is a tiny little writerly thing, but here on your Facebook intro, I think you can make the structure of the sentence more parallel. So right now you have, in the midst of loss, I chase what's funny in the day-to-day and the beauty in ordinary objects. And I think you can make that parallel. In the midst of loss, I chase the funny in the day-to-day and the beauty in the ordinary. So that you've got the thes, adding that rhythm. See if you like it. It might be not your voice, but I think you might get a little bit more snappiness with a parallel structure there.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything you want to ask us, Sue, while I stop share and pop back into the Zoom room?
No, I think I'm good. Oh crap, I did have a question and now I can't remember what it was.
We will be here. We will be here after we get back from breakout rooms, or you could stay here in the main room with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome back from breakout rooms. Feel free to drop your social handles into the chat if you know you want to connect with the people who were in your breakout room later. We will be sending out today's chat into the email that you guys will get with the replay link so you can track each other down. Welcome back. It is so great to have you here. We are getting close to the end of our time, and we always try to end as close to on time as we can. We want to do just a couple of quick things at the end here. We're going to tell you one thing you can do today and why this all matters. But before we do that, we want to say we invite you to join us on the Express Lane. It's at thewritersbridge.com/Express Lane, which is a twice weekly dose of a tiny doable platform step in your inbox. We also invite you to join us for our next episode, which will be March 15th, and it is Creating Diverse Spaces, Platform Building for and with BIPOC authors. We're going to have a guest moderator, Leah Deshay. We're going to have panelists, Tanya Todd, Michelle Yang, and Adiba Nelson. They're going to be sharing their experiences, their advice, and how the literary community as a whole can actively create safer and more welcoming spaces for BIPOC writers. And we really want to put their voices forward. Ashley, what is one platform building thing we can do immediately today?
Okay, a lot of us started social media as a way to connect with friends from high school or second cousins across the country. As writers, we need to show up on social media professionally. So when you look at your profile, when you look at anything that is public facing, I want you to ask yourself, if someone saw your video or read your essay or heard your book was coming out and went to your profile, what impression would you want it to give? Really make a profile for the job you want, not the job you have. Really present yourself that way in the world.
And Anna asks in the chat about a podcast. It's actually not a podcast. It is the next episode of The Writer's Bridge, is creating diverse spaces. Every episode, if you're here for the first time, every episode has a different theme. We're also going to be doing one on how I got my agent next month as well. So we are really excited about that. So here's why this all matters. And what I really want you to remember is that building a solid, genuine platform takes time. Ashley and I recommend 15 minutes a day, 5 days a week for 2 years. It's faster if you can do more. It's slower if you can do less, but it's like playing a sport. If you're seriously working to improve, it might not be fun, but it is very rewarding. You don't have to be on social media all day. You don't have to be online at all. Platform is not advertising. It's not making reels. It's not constantly tweeting about your book. Your platform is who you are and what you have to share. My platform is direct, helpful writing advice. You may have seen my recent Brevity blog, Why Your Essay Got Rejected. I blog for Brevity for free, but I get paid to teach. And I learned a lot from assessing for a webinar 113 essays that got rejected. And I was able to share that information with people who needed it. I learned from them. They learned from me. There's an ad at the bottom of that post for my next paid webinar, but it's after 900 words of extremely useful information for my very specific targeted audience. You will know it's real platform when you are learning as much from your audience as they are learning from you. When your quote unquote content overlaps a lot with your actual writing, when you write first, when you write more than you platform, and when sharing your work with your audience brings both of you joy. Please feel free to unmute yourselves for a lovely goodbye. We're so glad to have you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.